Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over how LTCN is currently breaking out and GBAT is absolutely massively breaking out and all of the other grayscale trusts. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so before we get into the charts, there's a couple other things I want to go over before we actually get into data here. So first thing is the portfolio, as you guys can see, still sitting on the same positions we had before. So mana kind of hasn't really moved much, but it's still up 7.5%. So that's not bad. HZEN and ETCG kind of lagging behind. I suspect we're probably going to still have quite a bit of time to pick up some shares on the cheap on ETCG going forward until Bitcoin tops out, which again, I do think is going to be closer towards the end of this year. And GBAT, as you guys can see, is up massively. Excuse me. So it was actually up even more than this at some point during the day, but then it was also down too. So the price as of today kind of fluctuated somewhere between like roughly about 15 to the upper 19s. If you guys were watching the price, you would know that this is true because you guys have seen it for yourselves if you're in GBAT. But as you guys can see, we're currently up roughly about 36% on this position. I mean, this would be a nice profit if we took it, but I do honestly think that, in my honest opinion, I do think that GBAT has a serious chance of hitting price discovery, which I'm going to get into in a minute. And it could potentially maybe do a 3 to 5x the price that we got in at, which again would not really be all that extreme if I'm being completely honest. So there's that. Also wanted to go over the portfolio real quick, and reason being is because of the ymax fund of funds and the Round Hills zero DTE weekly paying dividend covered call ETFs. Those were announced today, as I'm sure you guys know. So we do have some shares of AMC. We talked about this on X, but we'll get into this in a later video. That's not going to be here. So again, we have 7 shares of qdte, as you guys can see here, and absolutely loaded the boat heavy on both FEPI and ymax, not just this morning, but yesterday. So in terms of ymax, the fund itself is actually holding up quite well over time, even though the markets have been a bit shaky. As you guys can see, it opened up at 20, but it's actually above the opening price. And that was at the start of the year, so roughly about 4 or 5 months ago. And the current price is 2066, so down a little bit, but again, 1.85% really is not much. So 108 shares. I'll go over the numbers here in a minute, but these are the distributions. As you guys can see, they're pretty they're pretty impressive. I mean, all 3 of these are still, if I'm not mistaken, all 3 of these are still higher than Tesla. And at one point, Tesla was considered to be like the greatest high yielding yield max single stock ETF that everybody loved. And again, it could be, but in order to see that, we need to see Tesla have a resurgence of price, which I think it will in the future. But it will be more likely to happen once the Fed cuts rates, as I've stated before on this channel. So again, the distribution for ymax 43%, 73 cents. Ymag is 63 cents, roughly about 37.5%. ULTY is $1.27, 98%, which is absolutely bonkers. I mean, that's crazy. I've been dividend investing for a few years and did not think anything like this was possible until these funds started coming out. So pretty insane. Personally, we're going to stay away from ULTY. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that the payout is so massive, and there is, if I'm not mistaken, there has been some kind of like substantial NAV erosion. So eventually a stock split will end up coming, and then, the price will just keep going down. We want to kind of have a mixed bag. Some of the more high yielding stuff that is at risk of NAV erosion, just simply for the sake of the passive income. But there's some like these that hold steady the price over time, kind of like JEPI, JEPQ, something like that, or SPYI, triple QI, where the price goes up and or sideways, with also providing maximum yield. And then we, of course, have some that go up over time that have a lesser yield. So we kind of want to have a perfect mix of all 3. But these are the distributions as of right now. So if I were to just do the forward calculations on the holdings, you can see 108.43. So we'll do these numbers real quick. 108.43 times 73 cents. Gonna get paid almost $80 for this month. So that's pretty good from just one position. So anyways, this is for the qdte covered call ETF from Roundhill, as you guys can see. So this comes out weekly. We may not cover this every week, but since we're already covering the yield max fund of funds, we'll do it today too. So the declaration date is today. The X date is tomorrow. So if you didn't get in before the end of trading session today, you can always basically get in before a week from tomorrow, because again, these have payouts every single week. So it's not like you're really missing anything. It won't be a long time before the next payout. But as of right now, pretty high payout, the highest within a month. So 37 cents per share. And again, that is on a per week basis. That is not monthly, that is per week. So now I'll go over to the S&P 500 version, which essentially it's the same thing, but for the S&P. And again, same thing with the payout and declarations. So if you missed it today, you have another week to get in before the next one. And again, the payment's not a record high over the month, but still pretty good. 34 cents is a lot more than 24 cents. So let's get into the charts for LTCN and the rest of the trusts. So LTCN, you guys can see that there's a potential MACD death cross taking place here. The histogram is turning slight red. Again, we have 2 trading days left. Well, technically, actually 3 trading days left. And again, CPI is tomorrow. I thought I should tell you all that too. But I'm going to get into CPI a little bit later in the video. So as you guys can see, there is a green candle poking its head out of this trend line. That is, in my opinion, very bullish. I kind of theorize that there's 2 things that could happen here. We could either break out from the support, or we could kind of have like this fake out to the downside, come back down, test this first trend line here, and then bust out of the downward trend line to the upside. It does potentially look like we're going to get that first breakout scenario here. You can see why this trend line matters, because there's a lot of price action that tested it in previous times. Something else I wanted to point out about LTCN is this thing does not necessarily have to have a death cross, and I'm going to show you guys why. So as you guys can see on the chart here on the weekly time frame, as we were testing this downward trend line, getting ready for that breakout, the MACD EMAs did converge on itself, but it never actually did have a death cross. Okay, so it never actually happened. So basically what I'm saying is that there's a potential for a fake out here. There's no guarantee that a death cross may actually take place. You guys can see that there was another fake out here. There was actually a confirmed death cross here, but again, we did eventually get a break of this downtrend line, and then a golden cross. So that was basically just an accumulation zone right there. But there's a possibility that maybe this thing kind of fakes out like right here, and then the EMAs never cross, and then boom, we just go straight up. That would be great for current LTCN holders. So that's absolutely a possibility. So we'll go down to the daily time frame here. As you guys can see, we do have a confirmed breakout of the daily trend line. If I were to just kind of move this up a little bit, it looks like we don't, if it's touching the tips of the wicks there. But again, this is a weekly trend line that I drew in here. And if I draw it down to the candle bodies instead of every single wick perfectly, you guys can see that it kind of changes the story a little bit. It does potentially look like a breakout here. But again, the price action needs to get above the EMAs on the daily on the chart itself. And we also need to get a golden cross, which the histogram is turning from dark red to light red. So there's a potential this thing is about to go bullish. And also the RSI did also have a golden cross on the daily. So we might be seeing an early reversal and a move to the upside on LTCN. So BCHG, not quite the same story here. We have not had a confirmed move above the trend line here, as you guys can see. So one more thing. So price targets. So support is 24 to 27. I'm aware that there may be some new people seeing this, so I think it's important to go over this. The profit target that you may want to be looking for is the $55 swing high there. Again, because it lines up with the top of this fat red candle, which is known as a control bar. Above that, we'd be looking at potentially $75 as the next pit stop, and then above that, $100 to $135. We can talk about the 100 to 135 once we kind of get past 50, but as for right now, just to go from pretty much this support zone to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 113% move, so at least double your money. Again, there's no guarantee it has to go up, but it is a support, and it does look like it wants to break out. So when it confirms, that's basically the highest probability setup that you potentially could get. So BCHG on the daily, no confirmed breakout yet, as you guys can see. This trend line is not perfectly lined up on the daily because, again, it is based on the weekly. You guys can see that the histogram is starting to switch here, potentially going bullish on the daily, and also the RSI does look like it maybe wants to cross here. This is not a super bullish confirmation yet, but it kind of looks like it wants to do it. So I'll have to keep you guys updated on that in the coming days. Again, the MACD death cross is kind of lagging behind the other trusts, as we've talked about in previous videos, but as of right now, there's no confirmed breakout yet, but there is a possibility. So 1020 to 1270 on support, 18 to $20 on resistance, and 24-ish or so, just slightly under 24 on the swing high up there. So just from the support to the swing high, you'd be looking at roughly about 110%. If I was to go to the deepest part of support at roughly about 10 1/4, it'd be about 131% move. So HN, a lot of red candles going on here. I don't think this thing's going to flip bullish anytime soon. I could be wrong, but this candle here is currently lower than these ones. Again, we have 3 trading days left, so no guarantees, but I would still say that this support is valid right now. So 380 to 420 on support, $6.90 to $8 on resistance, and then the swing high up here is $10.50. So where you guys choose to get in at, that's up to you. But from current price to the swing high is 153% move. And then from the bottom of the range here to the swing high is about 180%. So ETCG, again, we are kind of bobbing around in between this channel and the EMAs. If it breaks the EMAs, it's hard to say exactly where it's going to go. I would say probably stop maybe somewhere around these wicks. So 990 to about 9 1/4, somewhere in there. But we're not actually going to know if that's going to happen until we get to that level. And then we see an indication of a reversal, meaning it's going to get bought up at that zone. So as of right now, support is between roughly about $11 to $13. I'm not really counting this as a resistance, even though it technically is, because the channel and the support / resistance zone here is kind of literally piled on top of each other. So with something like crypto, generally we look for a big move. We're not looking for like a little tiny move like 10-15% like we would with a stock. So 1760 to about 20 1/4 on the resistance there. Excuse me, I'm chewing on a cough drop. Sorry about that. So 75% move swing to the upside. Again, this is in the ideal zone right now. Whether it actually capitulates down or not remains to be seen. But if you're worried about that, you could always DCA in. Again, that's not financial advice. That's just how I would play it if it was me. So we're in this downward channel on ETH. And we also have a potential cup and handle pattern here that could play out. Those are both bullish. This is the target for the cup and handle. Support's going to be pretty much anywhere between this zone and the trend line, the down the trend line. You can see the price is riding right there, so about $17 to $20 or so. We'll just take the current price and use that as a measurement. So again, top of the channel would be the target for the downward channel. That's about a 55% move. To get to the top of resistance here, you can see the price all the way over here would be about 134% move, and then the cup and handle pattern target would be about 170%. This one does not have any clear indication of reversal yet, so we need to see some green price action there. Phil G, this is one I wanted to pick up before, but it just didn't quite get down to the zone, so I decided to go ahead and pass on that one. Again, up here we have a break of this trend line, so the weekly has to confirm, as you guys know. The daily has already confirmed, but again, we do not have a close above the EMAs yet. However, we are about to have a golden cross on the MACD here, and we do have a golden cross on the RSI, so that's early indication that potentially this thing's getting ready to rip. If you guys want to get in now, that's up to you. I'm not going to get in now. I would wait for the zone, or at least along the trend line somewhere in there for the greatest risk-reward ratio possible here. But the support pretty much is, I really got to zoom in here to see it. It's roughly about 37 to 40-ish, somewhere in there. As of right now, the current trend line would be roughly about $53, and the swing high is $400. So there's a pretty big price appreciation potential here. Just from the current price to the swing high, 311%. From the trend line to the swing high, 539%. And from the support zone, which I don't think it's going to get back to at this point, to the swing high, 869%. So GBAT, this is the one that we're heavy in. As you guys can see, this thing is absolutely ripping. I did tell you guys that I thought this was going to happen. There was actually another subscriber, I believe, that we have that said something about this, and based on what I'm seeing, it does look like that person was actually correct about the upcoming move on this thing. So good job, dude. But as you guys can see on the daily, we have a MACD golden cross that actually happened quite a few days ago. RSI golden cross coming off of oversold territory. A breakout confirmed out of this downward trend line. The EMAs now actually have a golden cross, a triple golden cross on the daily time frame. So that means, well, okay, I take that back. It's actually not a triple golden cross, so we still need to see the blue come above the red, but the yellow has come above the blue and the red. So as far as I'm concerned, that is a triple golden cross. But yeah, I mean, pretty much all things at this point are pointing towards bigger moves to the upside. So we have this breakout candle above the EMAs, a bullish confirmation candle, and a follow-up candle. Don't necessarily need the third candle to convince me that the move is on, but you know, some people might be a little skeptical, so there it is. So one thing I wanted to point out that we've seen before in previous rips to the upside, so we usually have 5 weeks of green, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a pullback, then a break of the trend line, somewhere in between the start of the move and the end of the move, and then a pullback into support or into the EMAs, whichever, and then 1, 2, break of the trend line, 3, 4, 5 green weeks, and then another pullback, and then 1, 2, and we're currently in the third week while also having a break of the trend lines. So how high exactly this could go, it's hard to say, but I suspect probably just, and we looked at this in previous videos, but the fibs that were hit on the previous moves were somewhere between the 1.618 and, if I'm not mistaken, roughly about the middle of the 3.6 and 4.2 fibs. So even if it just went to the 2.618, which again is roughly about half the fib move, this is a $74 price target from the current price that we bought in. I mean, that's more than a 5x. I don't know exactly what that is, maybe a 6x. From the current price, it's still roughly about a 4x. So, I mean, that's a pretty good move, all things considered. So that's GBAT, the most bullish looking one. GLIV, trying to squeeze out of this trend line, not getting it yet. We'll have to keep a lookout on this one, but as of right now, support is 12.25 to about 15.40. $80 is the swing high up there, as you guys can see. So from the current move down to support, could be about a 52% drop. It's up to you guys whether you want to get in now or not get in at all because you think it's too risky. Of course, there are some people like that. That's fine. I'm not against being risk adverse. We are dividend investors too. So 491% move from the support to the swing high up there. And then just from the trend line, assuming it breaks out immediately to the swing high, 210% move. So G-Link, this one's kind of chopping around. Don't know if it's going to break out, break down, but we have not seen a confirmed break of the trend line yet. Support still sits at 64.5 to about $85, and then the swing high up here is roughly about 220. So just to go from the current price down to the bottom of this support zone would be roughly about a 38% pullback. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that is a possibility. Just wanted to throw that out there for you guys in case you don't or just understand what the risk is here. So 106% move from current price to swing high. Then from the zone to the swing high would be about a 204% move, and from the absolute bottom of the zone to the swing high, 246% move. So GSOL, this thing's still chopping around, still has not given us indication one way or another that it is going up or down. Again, we have a MACD death cross, but that's not being confirmed by the price yet, so not really much to look at here. All I can say is, I mean, if it breaks out to the upside, that's great, but I can't I can't really sit here and say, oh yeah, it's going to be a great risk reward. I mean, you know, from the current price to the swing high is a 62% move, but from the current price to the support zone is roughly about the same amount. So 52%, 10% less, you know, it's a risk. But the support zone as of right now is 174 to 200. Again, the swing high is 580. And from, we'll just say roughly about the bottom of support to the swing high is a 227% move. If you guys want to get in at these prices, that's up to you, how you want to go about it or not. Me personally, I'm not going to touch this right now because, again, it does not have a confirmation one way or another. So GXLM, this one has been quite red for quite a long time. It could break bullish out of this trend line, but again, it's kind of stuck in this channel or rising wedge. I don't think it's a rising wedge. I think it's a channel, if I'm being completely honest. But either way, typically speaking, these are bearish patterns. So again, the bottom of the channel would be the target or the wedge, either way, which is about $14. I don't think it bottoms out there. If it does crack this trend line here, maybe 20 is probably where it bottoms out. But as of right now, the current support is going to be about $30 at the bottom of this trend line here. So pretty much anywhere between 20 to 30 bucks is what we'd be looking at. Resistance above that, 52.5 to about 58, and then the swing high is $70. So from the trend line to the swing high, 120% move, and if it gets down to 20 and then back up to the swing high, 227% move. Mana, this one has not had a confirmed breakout yet. So as of right now, support is 18 to 20 and roughly about 20 and a quarter, and then you have about 70.5 on the swing high up there. So from the current level down to the support, about 22% drop. So it's not that bad, but I mean, of course, it depends on how much you want to put in. From the current price to the swing high is about 202% move. And then from the support zone to the swing high would be obviously much more, about 295%. So Zcash, again, this one is kind of sitting comfortably in the support zone. I'm not sure why all these zones are overlaid. Maybe there's an issue with TradingView. I'll have to go back and fix this. But as of right now, this line right here is going to be the support. So this little box that you guys can see, so 436 to about 511. And then this, let's see here. This bigger box up here is going to be resistance. So 790 to about 960, and then $10-ish roughly on the swing high there. So current price to swing high is going to be about 112% move. Again, we're looking for a break of the trend line. Haven't seen it. But as of right now, it's sitting pretty comfortably on the EMAs and support. So do with that whatever you guys will. All right, so last thing I want to go over before we close the video out. So tomorrow is CPI day, and that is going to be at 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or if you're on Mountain Time, I guess it would be 7:30 a.m. And if you're on Eastern Time, it would be 8:30 a.m. in the morning. So I was not aware that TradingView had this tool, but I'm glad I know now. So as you guys can see, the important ones that we're looking at here is pretty much core inflation month over month. The expectation is lower than the previous one. Core inflation rate year over year, which is obviously the big deal here. The expectation is for it to be lower than the previous year, which again would be bullish. I would assume that the markets would be bullish on that and wanting to pump the price of indexes and stocks. And this would be the headline inflation rate, or basically what society expects inflation is going to be. Pretty much not moved month over month. However, the headline inflation rate for year over year is expecting a 0.1% drop. And if we get those expectations, I would say the market's probably going to be slightly bullish. However, if we massively beat the expectations, let's say on the core and the headline inflation, we come in 0.2, 0.3, or even 0.4% lower than what it was before. So the drop is bigger, but not too big. Then I would say the markets will go mega bullish on that news. Again, it's hard to predict. What we don't want to see is it increase or have such a massive drop where it's like a 1.0% drop. It goes from 3.5 to 2.5 because if it drops that much, then the markets may be like, oh crap, the economy really is going down the gutter and the Fed's going to have to cut rates immediately, sell everything. We don't want to see that reaction. So maybe just a slight beat on the expectations would I would say would be the most bullish scenario. And then of course we'll see, not a guarantee, but I suspect likely that cryptos and stocks and pretty much everything that's going to pump tomorrow is going to pump. And there could be some pretty good moves. So we'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.